What's good, family? Welcome back to another episode of Let The Brotha Speak, the space where real ones get real about the stuff that matters. Now, before we dive into this, let me say this. My voice sounded like a broken saxophone today because I'm battling laryngitis. So bear with me. The message is still solid, even if the vocals sound like gravel. All right. This month is June, and it's officially Men's Mental Health Month. So we taking time to check in, not just on the barbershop talk, not just on the bravado, but the stuff we usually keep buried: depression, stress, silence, expectations, pressure. We're unpacking all of it today because being strong includes being honest. So sit back, sip something, and let's have a conversation the world may not be ready for, but one we need to have. Okay, let's go. All right, roll the intro.
Welcome to the show. Cartoons Radio. Coming at you live.
All right, what's going on, fellas?
Not much.
I know I sound like crap, but we're gonna push along through this. What's going on with y'all? How was y'all feeling?
I'm feeling. I mean,
Still enjoying the retirement life?
dude. There's some craziness that went on, but yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I even got a chance to spend time, do those little date things with the wife, and spend time with the dog. You know, being 12 years a slave, you couldn't get a chance to do that.
Mm-hmm. You bored, ain't you?
Almost. That energy is real high. You started to come down a little bit. Yeah.
What's going on with you, man?
Man, I'm doing okay. As you said, it's June. I think you said it's Mental Health Month.
Men's mental health.
Men's Mental Health Month. It's always crazy how these holidays or these days or these months come up to me. Like,
right,
celebrating.
It's like
stuff.
every year we got a new month.
Yeah.
Some new holiday or some new month is something.
Yeah. But this month is, of course, very special for me because it's my birthday month. Right.
Hey.
June 12th, next Thursday, celebration. Be 46 years old. Thank the Lord for being here. From the community I come from, I wasn't supposed to make it past 25. So that's what the statistics say. And so I'm very blessed and honored to be here, and also blessed and honored to be talking about what we're talking about today, which is men's mental health. So it's been a great week of learning. First full week with all the kids out of the school, so it's kind of been real.
Relax.
Mellow, relax. You can get some things done. So real cool, man. And then also we've been go to a 4-day work week at work. So Fridays are pretty much off for the rest of the summer until August. So man, pretty good week.
That's what's up. That's cool. Well, I didn't really do much of anything. I know we had to miss taping the episode because last week I was doing the family reunion thing.
Yeah,
man.
yeah. How did that go?
Oh, it went, man. Me and the wife, excuse me. Me and the wife hosted the family reunion this year. So, and we decided to do, since I was hosting my family's reunion, she was hosting her family's reunion. So we just decided to do them together.
Wow. Okay.
So we had the Jameson Taylor Black Morton family reunion, and we brought both our families together in one place. So we brought them all down here to Dallas. So, and we were over at Epic Central. So,
but how many people showed up?
Quite a few. I think I lost count. It was I wouldn't say about 75 to 100-something people.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people showed up.
Good turnout.
Yeah, I mean, I understand everybody wasn't gonna be able to come because we did kind of get it together last minute. But the people who came, they showed out. We had fun and everything.
Yeah.
So one bad thing though, man, and I'm still apologizing to the family for it. Y'all may have seen it on social media. Man, I made a big old 5-gallon jug of sangria, and I had it in the back of the truck, and I'm taking it over to the park. And I made this right turn, and the jug tipped over. And I was like, oh man, I gotta stop and see what's going on with it, because the spigot on it wasn't sealable, wasn't closed. I couldn't close it off. So I didn't know if the spigot was leaking or anything. I have weather mats in my all weather mats in the back of the car. So
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't gonna mess up the carpets or anything, but I just wanted it all to leak out all over the place either. I got to a stopping point, hit the lift gate, and before I could get around back there to it, it come rolling out, splashed all over the concrete.
Oh wow.
Oh man, it was an ant party after that.
Wow.
So I'm sure the raccoons and squirrels had plenty to eat with all the fruit and stuff that was in it. So
Yeah.
It was a sad day. R.I.P. to the sangria.
Yeah, R.I.P.
2025.
to all that good sangria, 5 gallons, yeah.
Yeah, it's 5 gallons gone.
They probably had their
And
mouths ready for
and I
that
made
too.
it. I made it 2 days early, so it was good. And it was good and fermented too.
Yeah.
Man, so oh well. That's how that goes.
Well, maybe that kick us right into, be some mental health issues off of that, losing all that sangria.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm still apologizing to the family for it, but they was all cool with it. So maybe that was a sign I didn't need it. We didn't need it.
Well, I'm sure
know.
y'all partaked in other ways.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but that was my weekend, my week.
Gotcha.
So,
Mike, before we was live coming in, you were talking a little bit about men's mental health and had some pretty interesting information. You mind jumping us off with that?
All right. So one of the things that I think causes a disparity within the Black community when it comes to mental health, it isn't always the fact that we just don't like to go to doctors. That history is already given. We particularly don't care for any type of health thing because we always get the bad end of the stick of it. But there's a lack of representation within the mental health industry. Me being a life coach, one of the things that I notice is even within the group that I'm dealing with, there's maybe 1 or 2 Black females, but I'm the only Black male in my class. So it makes you think. It's like, okay, we're underrepresented in the mental health industry. And you start to wonder why people go, okay, well, why they just need to man up. Well, sometimes we as Black men can't always man up. It's sort of like if I put Mentos in this bottle right here and it was filled all the way up to the top, at some point, once it cracks open, stuff is going to go flying everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening with our communities because a lot of people don't understand as a Black man the things that we deal with. There's systemic
racism
problems that go on. You have emotional baggage that was left from childhood trauma. You have
microaggressions.
Microaggressions.
Yeah.
Just things in general that we deal with. And as Black men, we're meant or told to man up and just handle it, and do these things and try to be there for our women. And, for some men, they feel as though they're not getting the appreciation that they deserve, whether it's at the workplace, whether it's at home, whether it's from their kids. So it becomes a thing or society in general. So then you want them to go to a therapist, but the therapist doesn't understand the issues that he's dealing with. So they're just putting their cultural biases into it, not understanding that it's their culture is totally different. Sort of like putting Mac programs into a PC. It's going to fail.
It may operate somehow. I want to share this and I'll get to the perception. I mean, I'll get to the place where I'm talking about this as it relates to Black males. But this is something I learned this week. I was like, when we looked at the topic, I was like, man, this is probably going to go good with this. And I just learned this yesterday. So hopefully I get this right, if that makes sense, right? So I went to a training yesterday, was talking about mental health, right? And we was talking about mental health and educators, but I think this applies to all of us, if that makes sense. And then I'm going to get to this particular point. So what I want you all to do is just kind of follow along with me, if that makes sense. So hold your hand up like this, right? And I'm just going to point to this part. This part, and I'm using this representation as your hand is the brain, all right?
Okay.
All right. So this part is the brain stem, right? The brain stem actually controls some things in your body, like automatically walking, heartbeat, things of that nature, right? So what we're going to do is take our thumb and we're going to kind of put it right here. All right. The thumb is going to represent the amygdala, right? The amygdala is where you make all like fight or flight, those type of decisions, reasoning, things of that nature, right? If you need to do something, you've heard of people being able to pick up cars and things of that nature, get superhuman strength if they see a loved one, things of that nature. So the amygdala, and it's another piece that's attached to it, which is the hippocampus, if I'm saying that correct. This kind of stores all your memories and stuff right here, right? Now this part up here is going to be your frontal cortex, and we're going to close it down, right? The frontal cortex controls all of your rationale, things of that nature, processing, reasoning, things of that nature, right? And this part is not developed until you 25 years of age, right? So a lot of times when our black boys are doing things, that's like, you should have been doing better. Well, this part is not even fully developed. Now, your lid can get flipped like this when you experience trauma. It goes like this, and then this amygdala starts getting bigger and bigger, right? Also, what can possibly happen as it's getting bigger is producing sugar in the form of glucose. That glucose then, I'm gonna see if I say this right, turns into cortisol, right? And cortisol is meant to do what? Help you protect yourself, right? And if you have an overactive amygdala, right, you're gonna always be in this fight or flight mode. Right? So I'm gonna close it down again. Frontal cortex, this helps us make rational decisions. We typically see a lot of people in our community living here in the amygdala, right? Also, it's producing a bunch of sugar, which we have a higher rate of diabetes than most people. Now, the reason why I wanted to kind of bring that to the show today is because, and we can put our hands down, the connection here to me hit me very profoundly that there's actually something from the health side and the mental health side that goes along with the physical health side, right? And a lot of the things that we experience, and I'm just looking at the brain piece of this, if that makes sense, right? If we are always activated here, we're going to produce more sugar, right? Which in turn is going to produce more diabetes, right? And so when I was looking at that, I was like, this is another way it's being effective in our communities, right? Places that we're not even looking at that could possibly be effective in. One of the things we always talk about is that, well, one of the things I talk about as an educator, I'm always trying to find out the cause of something, not just the symptoms, right? And one of the things that I want to make sure that, this year we was bringing to the show is some other different information in conjunction with our information and our opinion just based on that, right? Here's another statistic that I learned. 76% of people in the workplace has reported a mental health condition. They've reported it. 76%. However,
That's a high number.
That's high as heck, right? And it's even more prevalent in Black men, right? I think the statistics there is probably more 81%, something of that nature, right? Don't quote me on that. But when you say that, I had two questions. One, who they reporting it to? One, who are they reporting it to? Two, what's being done about it? Right? And the way that we, as I think you started this out earlier a little bit, Mike, the way that we sparingly visit the doctor, we even sparingly more will visit a psychiatrist or something of that nature, and not knowing that there's a connection. And then when you look at the medical field and the mental health field, they're not working in conjunction. Right? It's not a connection of brain, soul, body, things of that nature. So I thought that was some interesting perspective I wanted to add and then kind of see what you all thought about that.
I agree. I absolutely agree. It's, everything starts from here. The Bible even says, where a man's heart, so is, so is mine. So therefore, it's your body will only reflect where your mind took it. So if the term is psychosomatic. So if I said, man, every time I go into work, it gets on my nerves. I feel sick in there. Then all of a sudden you start getting sick when you go into work. It's because you said it enough time.
Uh-huh.
So, we as Black men, we need community. That's why I love the show, is because it's been therapy. So, it's we need community. We need other brothers that we can talk to and just bear the scars without judgment. That's
Absolutely.
one of the key things, is trying to, get to the root cause of our issues. You could say, oh, it was this or that. A lot of this, and this is when I was doing a deep dive into myself.
Yeah.
I realized one of the key issues to most of my problems was we were created to love and to be loved. And when you're not getting that type of love from the people that you care about the most, which is normally the first people is your parents, and you're looking on the worldly level for those things, then it's when it gets into other coping mechanisms as drugs, risk-taking, or substance abuse, anything that will, give you that momentary high, right? When we should be looking at ourselves and going, hey, where are we having our problem? So, I was a child of divorce. So I understand some of these men's dynamics of, hey, I felt as though my mom always was pushing my dad out. That wasn't my case, but my mom was always trying to get my dad involved. But it's also the fact that, there's men that just never met their father.
Yeah.
Right.
They don't know what that looks like.
Yeah. So, and then they didn't have much of a father figure within their lives. So it's hard to identify with certain things as a man, because you've been taught to be a man from the people that were around you. And a lot of them may not have been men characters. They may have been men age, but they were not
age, yeah.
They were not men in character.
Right. I think it's one thing that I've been trying to do lately in anything that I do is to kind of define what I'm talking about. Right. And I think if you are able to define what you're talking about, it gives context, right? So they can understand that conception, because the alternative to that is a misconception, right?
Yeah.
And so when we're talking about be a man, what would be your definition of a man?
Pastor Derek A. Golden, I'm going to use this one. He says, in order to call yourself a man, you must walk like a man, talk like a man, dress like a man, right? But it even goes further than that. A man does men things.
Okay.
So in other words, a man gets up in the morning, no matter how bad he's feeling, whatever's going on in his world, he steps up. He says, I gotta take care of my tribe. Men take care of their tribe, whether it's the community, whether it's just themselves, maybe it's their kids, maybe it's their woman, or this is Pride Month, so I'll give it to their man, but whatever it may be, it's their tribe. They're taking care of their tribe. They get up in the morning, they work hard, they provide. Do I expect them to be perfect? Any man to be perfect? No. There was only one perfect man, and he died up on the cross. So my thing is this: do as a man, get up and don't give a half-ass effort and expect a full-ass reward. My thing is, when I played sports, you can't say, oh, well, I'm hurt, and then think you're going to step out the game, because coach may pull you out the game for a few more games just to prove the point that he can go without you. If you lose, the team is going to look at you.
Yeah.
Right. If you win, they're going to be like, well, we didn't need you anyway.
Yeah.
So my thought is this: if you win the game and you ain't that hurt, you keep playing.
I think when we don't understand what a man is, or especially in the Black community, it could contribute to some of the mental health concerns or issues that we have. One of the things that I've been really looking at too is like kind of defining not what my job is, but what my work is. Right? Like, what was I put on this earth to do?
Yeah.
Right. And looking at those things. And once people are able to lock in that way, I think once you're able to kind of lock in, see what your focus is, you're headed that direction, it kind of cuts out some of those distractions in life. In addition, something else I've been thinking about very profoundly for me is that people that participate in maladaptive behaviors, like you're drinking, smoking, things of that nature, overindulging and things of that nature, are using those things as coping mechanism to get past the trauma. Right. And when I started looking at it through that lens, it gave me a different perspective of people that I work with. Also people that may be indulging in overuses and things of that nature, because there's a certain amount of trauma, a level of trauma that they experience, which is contributing to the mental health conditions, right? Most of the time when we talk about mental health as well, especially in Black men, we look at it as like a deficiency, right? But there's a continuum, which I learned, right? So on one side, you got mental health, which some things in there, it's okay to have a thought, things of that nature, but you're not living into it. And then on the other end of it, you can have a mental illness, right? And so when you're looking at it from that perspective, just because you had a thought, just because you had an idea, maybe you didn't do something this day, doesn't mean you have a mental illness, right? But finding healthy ways to cope with that as Black men, I think is, paramount. Going for walks, taking deep breaths, right? Drinking water, right? One of the biggest things, one of the biggest things that we don't do is get our required sleep, because we being a man, because we taking care of this, because we taking care of that, and just sleep and diet alone would help you with your weight and things of that nature as well, And then, as you all know, you coming from work, you're providing for your family, as well. We stop by that quick restaurant to get us something to eat real quick, whether that's fries, a quick burger, things of that nature. And that unprocessed food is constantly adding to that as well, right? Because we're not getting the right hormones and things we need in our body to be able to produce like we need to be able to produce, right? And so therefore, again, if I'm deficient vitamin wise, what is that doing for my brain? Right? What is that doing for my body, right? And so some of the things that we are, calling mental illness or mental health issues also reside in some of our practices that we do, right? And I'm always about, in my opinion, taking care of home. And if we can take care of home, just like you take care of your house as a man, then it makes the community better. Right. And so with that said, I'll put a stopping point, put a book in right there and let somebody else, add to, make a retort, things of that nature. But I'm really seeing, not only from this show, just from other Black men that I'm talking with, that we all have a responsibility to each other.
Absolutely.
To one, be honest with each other, have a place or platform, whether that's even just a small place to be able to talk to each other, but be authentic and honest with each other, right?
Absolutely.
And when we're authentic and honest with each other, I kind of look at it as levels of growth.
Correct. And that's one of the key things is we as Black men have to be honest with ourselves. Take a deep dive into yourself. See your flaws, but don't see them as oh, this is a stop into the thing. Think of it as a beginning to greatness. You take that flaw, almost like in Shaolin. When I took martial arts, they said, take your enemy's strength and use it as their weakness. Take your weakness and use it as a strength. So sometimes it's okay, maybe I wasn't educated as well as other people.
Yeah.
And don't take that as, oh, I can't do better. No, get out there and maybe pick up something to read and get better at it. Pick up knowledge. Maybe I'm not as athletic as somebody else. Well, just do a little bit of working out. Get yourself to that level that you can get. But there's always something that you can do better. Me, I'm actually working on the anger issue. Most people don't know that I have an anger issue because I mask it very well.
Yeah.
But I know I have an anger issue, and I sit there and go, okay, how can I address this and stop popping off mentally here? I don't take it out into the world. I try to hold it in and just decompress some other way. So one of the ways that I decompress is to get out and go fishing, right?
Yeah.
Because aggression has no benefit. I assure you, the inside of a jail is not a fun place. So, you know, but for my brothers that have been there, you should know that's not a place that you want to be. So sometimes you have to say, hey, you know what? I need to deal with my anger issues. If it's there's other things that we as Black men, like I said, it's sad that we got to have a conversation with our kids about being Black and out in the world, because, you know, you can't pop off and say things, because I don't need another child with a hashtag. I don't need another brother or sister with a name hashtag, you know, just because we feel as though we're disrespected, and we've been disrespected for hundreds of years.
Yeah, hundreds of years. I would add to this is that when we look at, you know, something that may be a negative indictment on our character, things of that nature, and one of the things I've really been trying to do is not necessarily look at things as good or bad. It is. What I mean by that, very simple analogy. There's daytime and there's nighttime. Right? There's nothing good or bad. It just is, if that makes sense, right? I go back to that brain exercise I'm doing. The amygdala actually does a very good job for us, right? And the prefrontal cortex does as well. However, if I got somebody coming in invading my home, I don't want to be using my prefrontal cortex at the time. I want to be using my amygdala. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Right.
I want to be using it at that time. And I think what happens in conversations a lot of the times, because we're trying to make a point, not meaning on this show, but when we're trying to make a point, we're sticking only to that particular point. And people may overlook that both of them are good things.
Yeah.
Right? We need both, right? I need Mike to be angry at the appropriate time, right?
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I don't want you to completely get rid of it.
Yeah.
Right? I'd rather, this just me personally, I would rather have a killer on my team that knows how to decompress it than not to have somebody that's not on my team.
And that's why
I open it up. That's just me personally, if that makes sense.
It's now it's a righteous indignation is the acceptable thing than, you know, just popping off because some idiot cut me off and ran me up into a curb or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to ride down the street chasing them, because what can end up happening is either I could end up in a 3x6 or a 6x9, or he can end up in a 3x6, 6x9. Sometimes you just got to say, you know what, it's not worth it. Let's just go on with life, move forward.
Absolutely.
But in the same aspect, you know, I agree. Yeah, there's never a really bad or good. It's just, you know, information. Information is information until you utilize it.
Absolutely. And the likelihood of you using that information all the time may present some challenges in different scenarios, like in the real world, where it's not that serious at that time. But I do need some people to be able to access that inner warrior.
Oh yeah.
I really need them to be able to access that, whether that's on the basketball court, whether it's on the football field, whether that's in life. If you know that as a man, you're going to protect your family at all costs, right? And so you have to have that in you, if that makes sense. It's just the appropriate time. One of the courses that I teach is called CPI, Crisis Prevention Intervention. And we talk about precipitating factors, but precipitating factors are like what Mike was talking about earlier. one of the things we do is like we take a Coke can, right? And we shake it up. Then we pass it to another person. They shake it up, and then we ask that last person, go ahead and open it. Right? You know what's gonna happen. Right.
Right.
And a lot of the times that's what's happening to us, whether that's a kid at school, whether that's us in the world, especially in the United States, as Black men, somebody's always shaking these things. Now, when I say somebody, I also mean that some of the things that we do as well. Right? Headed to work late, shake.
Right.
Right? I didn't get my coffee this morning, shake. Right? Me and my wife had a little argument right before that, shake. Right? Did I go into work? My line ain't set up right, shake. Right? Somebody say something crazy to me, shake. Right? Oh, I forgot to do this yesterday too, shake. And then that last person come in, they get it all, right? And I think one of the things that we have to realize and be cognizant of ourselves, how many times we've been shook that day, right? If you can think about how many times you've been shook that day, once you're cognizant of something, I think you're more aware and the likelihood of you not popping off actually decreases. But when you're not aware of how many times you've been shook, right, the likelihood of you pop off goes very high.
That's General Motors' life. I'm just saying, it's always going to be high up in there.
That's why I'm glad I'm on. That's why I'm glad I'm on the outside of the fence. You know, and that's the other thing. We're going to talk about another thing that the American Health Association has now recognized, which is workplace burnout.
Woo!
Oh yeah,
Mike, you don't want to go there. I told you my research is on burnout, bro. That's what I've been doing a whole lot of research burnout.
On. You know,
yes.
So we as Black men a lot of times have highly stressful jobs, and then you go home and you have expectations of you for one reason or another. There may be an expectation, but then you get out in the real world, there's an expectation of you there. So then by the time you come back, as you said, I've been shaking very well, shaking better than a James Bond martini. Right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I'm at work and then something dumb happens.
Yep.
But I've been in a highly stressful thing. And then they wonder why he went off. It's because he never got a chance to decompress.
Yep.
As you said, sleeping is probably one of the best things that you can do, you know, and I'm an advocate for, you know, watch your substance usage. And I'm saying substance usage because what I've found out, especially for people that are chemically imbalanced, whether you're ADHD, bipolar, adding chemicals to that scenario only makes things worse. It's sort of like, hey, I got a grease fire. Well, we can throw water at it, you know, because most people think throw water at a fire. A grease fire is not something you throw water at. Neither is a magnesium fire. So it may have worked for somebody else. Yeah, I can just have a small sip of something and I'm fine. But people that are chemically imbalanced, that's not the case all the time. That could pop off something worse.
Yeah, everybody's body is individualized, right? Yep. I like what you just said about the grease fire. It's a very simple analogy, but I think it's profound from this perspective. One of the things that I talk about when working with students with high level of physical aggression, and a lot of those kids end up being people that look like you and me, right? And they happen to be boys, high level of that, right? I always tell people that I really don't like when the first intervention works. And the reason I don't like that because you start trying to apply that intervention with every person that you work with. So going back to like that grease fire, just because it worked on this fire, you think you're going to throw water on this one and it explodes, right? Right. That's not knowing your personnel. And if we're going to be working in institutions and organizations and things of that nature, one of the things that's incumbent on leaders is to get to know their people, right? I always say that everything, in my opinion, everything rises and falls with leadership.
Absolutely.
Everything
One
rises
of
and falls with leadership.
the greatest comments I've ever seen was poor management makes a good employee a bad employee.
Yeah.
That is the most profound statement. So if you think, oh, I'm the boss and they're going, and you're carrying that load like, oh, I'm above everybody, but you're not being a servant to those people, finding out what may be wrong. Because one person may have a child that may be asthmatic, and that's why they come in late, but you're sitting there chewing them out because, hey, why are you always late? Well, because my kid had a thing, but you didn't care to ask me, or hey, I had car issues, whatever they may be. But sometimes people just don't look at people as people instead of employees.
Yeah, I think that's very important, especially when it comes to the mental health, talking about Black men. And you just started talking about people in general. When it comes to people leading other people, one of the ways we can decrease those mental health concerns is by understanding our employees, right? It's understanding the people that we work with and making sure we tap in with them to understand them, not necessarily only on the company level, but on a personal level. And when you get that to happen, those people will run through a wall for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, look, I like what you were saying about the the workplace burnout. We're gonna continue that on next week. Okay. Next episode, we're gonna continue that. All right. So, but let's gonna do it for this episode. All right. But before we sign off, I need you to hear this loud and clear. You ain't gotta hold it all in. Whatever you're carrying, stress, pain, confusion, trauma, don't bottle that up till it breaks you. Talk to somebody, a friend, a therapist, a brother. Hell, talk to us. Reach out to us. We'll help point you in the right direction. You don't have to walk through the dark alone. Okay. This month ain't just about awareness. It's about action. Take care of yourself, King. Your mental health matters. Your life matters. And before we go, big love to all the fathers out there. Whether you're holding it down in the home, doing your best from business, or breaking generational cycles, you matter. We see you. We salute you. Happy early Father's Day. And be sure to follow us on Facebook and Let the Brother Speak, and subscribe to us on YouTube. Don't forget, like, share, and subscribe wherever you get the podcast. Somebody you know needs to hear this. Don't keep it to yourself. Until next time, stay solid, stay honest, and as always,
Let the brother speak.